mile markers for breakfast, baby. There's just something so American about heading west, you know?
Yeah. Although we are headed east.
Did you know that there was a UFO crash out here 60 years ago?
Please don't tell me you were going out here for some sort of UFO hunt, man. Seriously. Because this trip is about inspiration and peace of mind.
Hey, neighbors!
This is from a crash site.
Yeah, the UFO crash site.
It's a piece of foil.
You know what?
You're right.
Nothing special. Oh, look at that.
The foil doesn't prove anything.
This could change our lives, man.
You are meant to be here. There's something very special inside you.
Thanks, man. That means a lot.
No, literally. There's something inside you.
What?
You'll never get out of here, no matter how hard you try. It's all scrambled.
Maybe you could just tell me what's going on.
Every once in a while, somebody comes along with a piece of foil inside of him.
This foil is holding you back.
Then Tom goes to work on it.
We gotta kill Tom before he kills all of us, right?
I'm not gonna shoot my roommate.
We can't shoot him.
We can shoot him.
Ah! Holy sh! What are you doing?
Hey, Jack. Some pretty cool stuff going on here, man.
We're doing this thing. Comprende?
Comprende.
Comprende.
All right, and we're back with the stars and the creators of Foil. Guys, thank you so much for being on Total Disclosure.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So I do want to start off by saying, so I absolutely loved the film. Just from the trailer, you kind of get that vibe that this is going to be, that buddy cop, not buddy cop, but that buddy trip kind of feeling. And I really loved the setting, the intimacy of the film, and just everything that you put together, how you weaved it. And I do want to talk about, how you did some of that. But first, I really just want to dig into who you guys are. So we'll start with Zach. Zach, can you tell us just a little bit more about your background and, why is this the movie you made?
Sure. Yeah. Well, yep. I'm Zach Green, director, co-writer, co-star of Foil. I hail from Austin, Texas. Went to high school out there, grew up out there, started taking film classes in high school about junior, senior year, was into it, was simultaneously also pretty heavily like a musical theater dork. So I think a lot of
often the case.
Yeah. So I think like a lot of my like dialogue obsession and also just like bigger style of performance comes, from is rooted in that, continues to be. But then I moved out here to Orange County to go to Chapman in 2008 for film school, like a directing, writing emphasis there. And I've been out here ever since. Not working film the entire time. I never fully stopped acting. But there was a period there where I was, working at a furniture fabricator shop for 5 years. And then at one point, an old college buddy introduced me to Devin. We became fast friends. And, our sensibilities linked so seamlessly that it quickly led to actually Devin coming to me, pitching the initial sort of elevator pitch of Foil. So if I was into it.
So your real life friendship kind of is reflected in the film in a way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Buds on screen, buds in real life for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So Devin, if you could share the same.
Yeah, so I'm also from Texas originally. I grew up in Houston. I went to University of Texas at Austin, and
No.
didn't know Zach back then. We were there. We had some overlap in years, but I didn't know Zach until really 5 or 6 years ago. I moved to LA. I went to film school and then moved to LA in 2010. And I've worked mostly as an editor at various studios, but I've always written and acted as well. And throughout the years, I made some short films. And when I met Zach, like you said, we realized that we just had similar sensibilities in terms of how we think about filmmaking, and our approach to it in terms of like improv and the looseness of it and the emphasis on dialogue. And also we realized that we both have an interest in sci-fi movies and also real life UFO and paranormal cases. So
Well,
with Foil, I think we kind of the idea, because we'd made a short film right before in 2020, and that went well, and we realized that we both wanted to make something bigger. We wanted to make a feature, and we thought, what if we brought sort of our dialogue, friendship sort of core to a sci-fi story, and
Right.
that's sort of where it started.
So you clearly know either you know the subject or you researched it heavily before, because you do incorporate these aspects of various UFO, like legitimate, like whether you want to, look at it as a believer or a skeptic, lore or history. So is this?
I
Yeah.
would say that it's always been something that has intrigued me, and something that ultimately I think is a thing that I believe in and think about. But I think Devin definitely brings a more like specific, maybe not encyclopedic level, but like he definitely knows his stuff. Like I only know like the very big, very popular UFO cases out there, but I think you, having seen the film, you'd notice that in Devin's scene where he really describes a close encounter very specifically, he that all came from his knowledge of. I mean, yeah, if you want to elaborate further,
Yeah.
so
Devin, I want to know if I'm right about where you pulled that story from.
Okay.
So can you tell me where you drew that in Close Encounter, how you crafted that story? Because there is a similarity in of course, abduction stories in general, but where did you draw inspiration from that?
I would
Because
say
it was deep, detailed.
yeah, there are a few real life stories that informed the details of that. One being the Travis Walton case, and sort of the idea of like lost time, and another being the Rendlesham Forest incident.
Yep.
And Jim Peniston's story about, he's in 1980 U.S. Air Force Base in England.
In England, yeah. Rendlesham.
He touches a craft, and he says that he got a flash of binary code in his head, which ended up being like the coordinates for that place. And so that was, listening to his interviews definitely inspired the details of that story.
And you even used, and that's what I loved, is you use the premise of that, because it's in your journal, right? You end up,
Yes.
you end up seeing that it was written, and that's why first of all, and I'm glad you said it. So I got Travis Walton and Rendlesham Forest. Those two, I was like, this is where it's getting pulled from, because it had those. And you're right, when Jim Touchcraft allegedly had that flash of, and then wrote this, this code that was just,
Yeah.
stuff. So that's what I call, like, that's real lore.
Yes.
And I love that. I love
Yeah.
that about this.
I'm glad you got that. The movie is very silly overall, but it was important to us to, take with Rex's story, like abduction story, to sort of take that seriously, because
Very.
I've seen kind of how the people who have those stories have been affected personally over their whole lives, and we wanted it to be accurate, and we wanted it to be, respectful of people's
Of their
real life stories, even though this is a silly comedy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and we thought it was important to kind of balance the silliness with some sincerity as far as that story went.
Well, yeah, and I think you did a good job of when when you actually retell the full story, and recall the entire event. I think that scene, it was very powerful in that nature, where where the tone shifts, right?
Yeah.
It goes from that like bantery comedy, to a really, like, listen, man, this isn't a joke for me, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is this is this is it. And like, it's something happened to me, and I'm looking for answers, and it's what I call the moment of conversion, right?
Mhm.
When I talk to actual experiencers, it's the moment they go from being a believer to a knower.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you had any UFO sightings of your own?
Uh, I have not had like a definitive one. Zach actually has.
Or any, like, paranormal activity, anything?
Yeah. I honestly, I can't say definitively that I have. I think what really, the core of it for me though is like it's we talk about a lot about like being a believer and
Yeah,
knowing, and like it's a matter of it's like a it's about faith, really, not like religious faith, but it's like wanting to believe that there's something more out there, right?
yeah,
And that's sort of like the core of
yeah,
this movie for me. It's about faith, and like, and sort of like Rex really wanting to find meaning in what he experienced, and like there has to be meaning, right? This has to be real. There has to be something else out there.
right. I
Um,
can't just be I can't sit back and not
right.
answer this question,
But also it's about how when you have that kind of experience like Rex did, you can become sort of like frozen in time. Like you can't, it's hard to move on, which he hasn't really done in his life, right? Like he
Right, he's
hasn't been
very
able
much
to mentally
stuck.
move on until he finds some answers.
Right. And
So
that's inevitably where the buddiness comes in. And, it just so happens that in the film, Zach is back, for from Hollywood, as a failed, yeah, let's say what it is. He's a
yeah,
failed, he's a failed, one of the LA transports, we call them, right?
mhm,
And
yeah,
he's back home, and he's funnily trying to get a job at, well, I won't spoil that, but yeah, go watch the film. But he's funnily trying to get a job. It's really like it's a good moment. But you guys then meet, and you want to go on this, you know, uh, for what Zach would be a retreat, and inspirational, um, uh, journey to kind of spark his inner writer. And for you, it was something else, or for your character, it was something else. So I love that aspect of the two contrasting goals, and them kind of both being hidden under this reunion of two friends. So, I mean, Zach, talk about your UFO or paranormal activity.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up visiting on my dad's side of the family. We would rent a house and then later had a house down in a little south of Laguna, like Capistrano Beach, like just north of San Clemente. And growing up, would stay up late, watch the night skies all the time, was always fascinated by what I was seeing. Bringing my dad, we had a little telescope, trying to think I was finding stuff, but it was usually like stars aligning and doing like the different colored flashings phenomenon. And but there was one particular time where I was driving south on the 5, about to exit PCH to get to the house, and it was broad daylight. It's a very overcast day. And as I turned left onto the PCH, I saw like the underbelly, like the shadow underbelly of a disc, like pretty clearly sticking out from the cloud cover to my right. I'm going like the beach is to my right. I wouldn't say it was over the water. It was like pretty, maybe like a 30-degree angle from where I'm looking. And it's one of those things where like I'm like driving quickly and don't want to kill myself, but I'm like trying to get a good look, and I didn't have a sunroof to look through, and sort of pulled off into like the closest parking pull-off area that I could. It was like a little embankment of restaurants. It's like a kind of bad Italian restaurant that was right there, and got out. And by the time I got out of the car, I didn't see anything up there, but very vividly, that whole experience of drive was probably, the whole thing was probably like a 2-minute experience of, at no point was it moving or going away or disappearing or anything. And at no point did it present itself more than just like the dark outlined separated disc from the overcast sky behind it. But that's the only time that really felt like, okay, I like fully can't explain what that was, or so there's that. And for the longest time I thought I had a more paranormal, like I guess what one would call like a ghost like experience. But I've since come to hell yeah, man, this imagery is pretty cool.
So like something similar to this.
Yeah. I the one you're pointing at. Yeah, not so much the one on the left with the wisps in it. Yeah, a full kind of void like that. And
I can't. Unfortunately, I can't save it because it's like a WebP file.
Yeah.
And those don't work. It has to be a certain imagery, but so like I don't know. There's a cool little picture.
And of course,
for reference.
There's always been a lot of conjecture around activities around that part of the ocean, like Catalina Island and all that.
Yeah, well, I've had a sighting on Catalina.
Really?
I was there.
Cool.
I was there filming, and I have the film. I mean,
Whoa,
there's no doubt about what was seen. I mean, I was shooting with the Sony Alpha 7C, so with the telephoto lens though. So I didn't get. You see it go by like as I'm speaking, and I mean it's just not. I'll talk. Maybe we could talk, and I'll send it to you guys after. But it hasn't. I've never showed it to anybody because it's going to be included in something eventually. But so it's kind of ironic. But I also had a UFO sighting right outside here. And what's funny is I grew up. This is where I grew up. And
where are you?
I'm in Boston.
Okay.
So this is East Coast, and I lived next to an Air Force base, but I also lived next to Raytheon, right? this military industrial complex, right? The defense, they have a huge role in the defense budget, and they the huge headquarters. So I had this disc come, the flying classic saucer, come literally just right over my head and right over my house as I was. This is when I was like 14, and it was oscillating and moving forward, and it went over my house. I chased it into the backyard, and by the time I got in the backyard, it was gone. But that's what I didn't even know what a UFO was. I went to the library and found out that other people had sightings that were like mine. There was a label for it called a UFO, and it was like the predecessor to my journey. I've always been that guy at the party that's asking, like kind of like your character, Devin, or at least in his current form in the movie, where he's like, drinking and, asking the existential questions and, that guy where, it's kind of funny. So I really drew to your character, but I also drew to your character, Zach, in the sense that you're the short-temperedness, and because I have that as well. I definitely have that as well. But where did you pull from, and how did you when he pitched this to you? What was what was your vision for the character, and is that what we ended up with?
Great question. So when Dev originally pitched it, he was sort of envisioning almost like a one-act version of it, like two guys in the desert come across a piece of something that may or may not be space foil, and then kind of the two guys are turning on each other. It's sort of a darker take on it. Dev references Tape, Richard Linklater's Tape, as like the very original inspo, and like made sense to pitch, given that the short we'd just done was shot in one day, no budget,
right?
That's a follow up to that. And so that would be like, if we wanted to replicate that short exactly with foil, that's probably how we would have done it and approached it.
Right.
But by that time we were in lockdown. It was full COVID lockdown. And that sort of opened the door to let us dream bigger. Not that we weren't also wanting that. We'd love to do our first feature, but that kind of gave us permission to like, okay, like nothing's going on right now with anyone anywhere. We are all stuck, for who knows how long, indeterminate amount of time. So that gave us time to just sort of let our imaginations run wild with it. And that's when we started to have a lot of fun with where it could go. And honestly, I don't think we had sort of set characters going into it. I mean, I know that we discussed a lot just the different interpretations of foil, one of which being that the main characters should all be foils of one another, just to, easily inspire conflict and generate, good dialogue scenes that way. But really it started with just Dev and I kind of, you could loosely call it the Curb Your Enthusiasm approach of like having beats set up for a scene or for a sequence. And then Devin would come over and we'd hang out in my backyard 10 feet apart, and we would improv through those beats with sometimes with cameras on, but usually just with our voice recorders on our phones. And that slowly would we'd sculpt scenes from that. And also we kind of found our characters through that improv as well. So, I mean, I think we at least had I think we at least knew for sure I was the skeptic and you were the believer. We knew that much.
Right.
But,
right.
But
and
yeah,
I love that poster as well. And
shout out to Emily Mai. She's the poster designer. She killed it.
Yeah. And so it's playing right now, right? It's out right now. And
Prime and Apple.
Prime and Apple.
Purchase. Yeah.
Awesome. And we're not done yet, by the way. I just wanted to make that clear. And then I believe you can go to Foil Movie. If I'm maybe mistaken. Foil, what is it?
Foilmovie.com.
Yeah, foilmovie.com backslash to see more and watch the film or to learn more about it. But you know, how long did it take to make the movie, and what were the shooting conditions like in the desert like that? Because I know it can be challenging, being in the heat like that, but also at night it becomes really, really cold.
Yeah. It was very cold at night. So we wrote it, like Zach said, during lockdown. I think we had our first draft in November of 2020.
That's when we started writing.
We started. Okay. So by the
spring of 2021.
Yeah, I think early 21 we had a draft. We continued revising it up until we began shooting in September of 21. We shot the first act. Essentially, we shot us driving out in the Bronco, which was in Joshua Tree. That was a weekend of shooting, and then we came back and shot in LA, the video store scene, and then we took a little break until the next February while we sort of found a new location, desert location in Lancaster to shoot the bulk of it. So the main schedule was 2 weeks in February of 22 out in Lancaster, and it was still hot during the day. It was damn cold at night,
but bearable during the day.
What's that? Yeah.
Bearable. But at night it gets real cold.
And windy, really windy during the
high
day.
winds.
I mean, there's nothing blocking the wind, right? It's essentially a wind tunnel.
It took down canopies and stuff. And
oh yeah, I mean, I could
we're
imagine the
looking
equipment
at our
that
sound guy like, should we even be filming? Like, is this usable? And the sound guy like really couldn't say. He was just on the boom like, I think so. Yeah,
I guess we'll find out, guys.
yeah. Like, okay.
So wait, so really, none of that came through. I mean, I was really impressed with the quality, and I really liked because I'm a dialogue junkie, right? I love Christopher Nolan, guys like that who are just like you need to pay attention to the dialogue, and there was a lot of dialogue in it, and it was really, 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 really awesome to see it come to life, and because I could kind of see where it was going. There was obviously some inspiration from Roswell, like where the site is, but where did you get the idea for like the alien, because you went with a certain archetype, not the typical, and I'm very curious as to why you went with a different, unique take on the alien situation and what it is, versus what the main grays are.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to totally spoil what that is, but we can say,
of
I would
course.
say, like, it came back to the word foil, right? And we what really unlocked the script for us was thinking about different meanings of foil. There's the literal memory foil, which is also a Roswell inspired thing.
Well, it's not even just Roswell. Yeah, it's Roswell. It's Roswell, Virginia. So many places have talked about it,
right?
and I love
Virginia,
that
Brazil.
it was used.
Yeah.
So
so that's kind of, like you said, we've seen that in different stories. there's the literal foil, there's the character foils, and then another one is sort of like foil as sort of like a shiny distraction, like and even like a mirage, like a desert mirage, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
people that are, everyone's representing a false version of themselves, in a way, and that sort of informed like how we thought about who people really are, you know, and the idea that there could be another hidden identity, right? So yeah,
Right.
that's
You
kind
went
of
with
where we
yeah.
got there. There was also there were early drafts of the script where Tom and Rambo were like older versions of us, and we were in some kind of time loop, and there were different things that at various versions of the script were one thing or another, but in the end, like, we came back to the word foil and the different meanings of it, and how does that inform how we treat the paranormal elements of this.
Right.
Yeah.
I really like that. That's amazing. And when so this obviously is there's not a lot of cast, right? So there's not a huge cast. How did you select the who you wanted to play each character? Are these friends of yours or and other, how did that process go?
Yeah.
Is creating the other characters.
So this being a pretty low budget endeavor, there was no casting director in the process, and essentially everyone in the movie, except for maybe Eric in the bar, Dev, is someone that I previously acted with in. I was in a couple of feature films in Austin before I came out for college, and in the first couple of years I was in college, just like really lucked out with a guy there. I always want to shout him out, Brian Poiser, who's like this really awesome indie filmmaker in Austin. Chris Dubek was the star of the first film that I was in.
Okay.
It's called Lovers of Hate. You should totally check it out. I still think it's an awesome flick.
Yeah.
And then his next movie, he also cast me in, and I played a stoner roommate with Brian McGuire, who plays Rambo.
Oh God, I cannot wait for that because
it's such a weird one. It's called Love and Air Sex.
Yeah.
And my other roommate in the film is Zach Kreger, who he directed. He directed what's the
Barbarian.
Barbarian, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the Barbarian.
So me, him, and Kreger were stoner roommates in that one.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
And Ashley Ray Spillers, who's Gina in the bar scene, the Carvey scene, she was in that. And then everyone else, Felix at the video store, the manager, Jasmine, who plays Bonnie Jonkers, who I bump into at the store. Those are all just, those are actually folks I met out here in LA through just I went on like a long 5-6 year journey of stand-up, improv, through Groundlings and UCB and Second City.
Just networking. Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of, and I'm not the best at it. I'm kind of a terrible networker, but there are a few folks that stuck, that were patient with me as like a reclusive member of that community. And that, Ari and Jasmine are two like true homies.
What? Yeah. No, I wish I had that. I wish I had more people that were willing to act around me. I
should also say too that we benefited also from it being, again, lockdown. So everyone that we called
was like,
you're shooting now, and like,
and it's like, what do you mean? It's the best time to shoot.
Yeah.
No one's doing anything. No one's out.
So but also, it was great that Zach knew all these actors, because to ask people to come out, well, the other two main guys, to the desert in those conditions for 2 weeks, was knowing it would be a brutal shoot. Like, having that trust and experience with Zach was important, I think. And it just made things a lot easier when we were actually out there shooting because there was a level of comfort with Zach that already existed. I think that was important. So, but yeah, Zach,
Awesome.
I mean, and Zach had the instinct for Rambo as Brian and Tom as Chris, and just really good casting instincts the whole way on Zach's part.
Yeah, gentlemen, can you hold on 1 second?
Yep.
My computer, I forgot my charger isn't plugged in.
All good.
How did I forget that? We recorded though. Good thing I can edit out. It's a good thing about recording it.
Amen.
I love StreamYard. So I'm sorry that now I lost my train of thought. God damn it.
All good. Yeah, we were discussing the cast, well, and also too, like that does tie into what's always kind of, we keep coming back to what a nice yin yang situation Devin and I have in so many ways, but another of which being that, yeah, my experience up to that point was mostly in production at school, so that helped us. But that was how we found our DP, and then also the acting production experience led to the cast. But I didn't have much production or post production experience, or at least not in that world. Didn't know a lot of people in that world, and that's where Dev, that's his bread and butter, and where he's been working for many years. And that's when he got to step in and plug people into positions in ways that I wouldn't have had any kind of Rolodex to
Right.
on, which was great. It was like we covered each other's blind spots well in a lot of ways.
Right. And so the guy who plays Tom, I'm blanking on his name right
Chris
now.
Dubek.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
As well as the other gentleman, the tall lanky guy.
Rambo.
Wire.
Ryan
Yeah.
McGuire. Yeah.
Rambo. So he blew me away, actually. So because I don't even know what it was about him, but like he reminded me of somebody, and it was just his character was like, it was so like, I don't know, it really, really was just such a good performance, because you didn't know whether to hate or love the guy, like because he's kind of like dopey in that sense, like he's very literal, and I kind of saw the way something coming, and I'm glad that the story that went the way that it did. And I'm really glad that that they were able to bring life to those scenes, because those were very, very, very. How did you pull those off? Because there's very limited VFX.
The VFX was, there certainly was a lot of VFX, but there was also a lot of times where we went in to shoot, or at least we're very close to shooting, assuming we were going to do VFX for things that we managed to figure out how to do practically, that I think saved us a lot of headache in post. Really have to shout out Jordan Black, the DP of the film, because he's just like a tinkerer and very savvy on just like, what if we just use this thing that's used for some total other purpose for this, and he figured out how to make the spinning practical. He figured out how to make the whole gag with lighting the bonfire a practical gag. He that like saved a lot for us.
Yeah, the foil unfolding is practical.
Yeah.
That was practical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
How?
the foil that foil that we had does unfold itself, and we did speed it up in post, but You know, we did stuff with lights, like blue lights shining across it, and we actually picked up that shot in Zach's driveway after the shoot.
Mhm.
We shot it out there in the desert, a version of it, and then we realized we could make it a little better, and we brought dirt from the desert, and just reshot that in Zach's driveway until it felt right.
Made a little sandbox in the driveway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. How did you make that work with the foil then?
Yeah, it's just it's
Like,
a
like
piece.
so is it something you can, is there already something online like similar where you can buy it where it like unfolds and then that's when you just sped it up?
It was a product on our production designer Adele understood that, because we discussed that it really can't be just kitchen foil. There needs to be something about the sheen to it
Right.
that
Right.
would indicate enough to the audience that it's
Not
interesting. Yeah, but not fully 100% giving away that it is something, you know, of note. But
right, because there needs to be that deniability for Zach.
exactly.
Right.
So
So yeah.
we kept returning to like prisms and like CD-ROMs and like, you know, that kind of sheen to it. And sure enough, she found, I think it was really like an adhesive thing. It was like a double-sided adhesive paper that you're supposed to peel off and stick to stuff. But if you didn't peel it and just kept both sides and crumpled it, something about like the glue that was in there that was keeping it together did give it a little bit of memory to it, so that when you,
Oh,
as long as you didn't fold it too dense,
too hard,
just
too
did a
hard. Yeah.
quick crumple and let it go, it would, you know, not all the way back to fully smooth, but pretty darn close. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
That's amazing. And that's what I love is like the ingenuity of these you know, because these productions don't have the Marvel budgets, right? Obviously. But you made it look very, 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 it's just like I said, it's very well done. And it's very well presented in its nature. And you know, I love a lot of the contrast and not just between the characters, but between the story itself, the UFO history, and what's real, what's not, right? Because you're pulling from actual, quote unquote, actual events. So it was really, really a fun movie for me to watch, and I really loved it, guys.
Awesome.
Any
Thanks.
plans for like a next project that has to do with this topic?
we're kicking some ideas around for the next thing. We definitely really like living in the genre space. The, you know, midnight movie audience, I think, is one that we're attracted to. Definitely wouldn't rule out returning to sci-fi or, you know, UFO alien related
Well,
stuff.
there's a huge demand for it, man.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
There's a huge demand for it, and especially good, well-told stories like yours that use that actual history, that actual
Yeah.
lore, and
We wanted to
and
do right by people who really understand that stuff. We didn't want,
yeah,
like Dev said, like there's plenty of gags in this movie, but that we did not want that to be a gag. That
yeah,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of Easter eggs for the really well-versed ufologist, and to the general audience, they can still understand the film without knowing the references because
Yeah.
it tells itself.
But we definitely wanted to pass the smell test of people like you who are serious
Totally.
about this stuff and know the history and know the cases, and so I'm glad that.
Well, that's what impressed me
Appreciate that,
yeah, that's what that like not to bag on Zach's character,
Go
but
ahead.
Devin, your character was definitely who I was obviously drawn to, and just you said you don't act much, right? So was this a challenge for you to be on screen again, and to bring a character to life that was going to, I mean, because if you blew it, you would have blown it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd only acted in short films, and, you know, going back to college, I did study a little bit of acting and had done some various classes after college out in LA, but I had never been on a shoot for more than a day as an actor. And knowing that I was going to be in scenes or primarily with someone like Chris Dubek, who's such a seasoned veteran and like such a pro. Yeah, I think I was a little intimidated going in,
Intimidated, yeah.
but he quickly realized like we really just kind of hit it off pretty quickly, and I was comfortable with him. But a lot of it was just like understanding the process, and that like we're not running 100-meter sprint. Like this is a marathon. Like this is going to be over 2 weeks. And I think I really just tried to observe how Zach and Brian and Chris went about it, and try to follow their leads, because it was unfamiliar territory for me in terms of stepping up as an actor who's doing more than one day, or really just one scene, because the other
Right,
shorts I had done were essentially one scene.
right.
So this was definitely more than I had ever taken on. So
Well, I think you nailed it, man. I think you did. I think you nailed it. You're very authentic in nature, in just your nature. So, definitely a credit to you. And Zach, God, I hated your character.
yeah,
In a good way. In a good way.
No, that's good. Yeah, by
You're
design.
you're such a pester to me. I was just like, I can't wait for this guy to figure out what's really going on,
Yeah.
because he needs it.
Mhm.
And you really brought that frustration to screen, and you dialed it in, man. Like you were giving me anxiety at one point. So, how
That's
did you go about doing that?
how did I get tapped into that? Well, honestly, it probably comes a lot from just growing up a middle child, being very much a diplomat and a mediator, and socially, familially on set as director. I would say to Devin a lot, like directing is a lot like politics. Like you are the face of a thing. You're always moving forward. You're always putting a positive spin. You can't ever dwell. You have to, there's so much the image of, everyone's looking to you, and you can't falter in that. So, in a weird way, I think playing Dexter was a nice outlet to then, as soon as you say action, become a little whiny little shit, for until we say cut, and then go back to, leading the thing.
Yeah, it was done. It was done really, really well. And
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
yeah. So like I said, guys, I really love this film. And where can people find you guys on social media and stuff like that?
I wish I was a better poster, but you can find me at @the_big_green, the big green. And I have a website, teamzachgreen.com, where you can see I've got the short that Devin and I did on there, a couple of other projects and whatnot. Those are probably the best spots to find me.
Yeah. And so is more of your work like on there for people to view? Is it on YouTube?
Yeah,
And stuff?
there's a college project sequence I'm kind of proud of, another kind of weird splatter gore rock opera horror film that I made.
I love that.
that's on there. It's called Moose Man. It's about a moose monster, all practical effects stuff. It's very silly and weird. You can watch a piece of that on there. I do a lot of voiceover work. You links to my voiceover demos, and you can hear the wacky weird voices I do. I think some of my stand-ups on there. Yeah, just sort of anything that it feels like, hey, if you want to check out my stuff, it's represented on some level at teamzachgreen.com.
Awesome. And Devin, man, where can people find more of you?
My handle across social media is at Hey Uncle Dev.
Hey Uncle Dev.
And it's mostly, these days it's foil and a lot of golf stuff. I'm kind of a golf nut, so be prepared for that.
Well, I'll definitely be following you guys.
Yeah, at Foil Movie and foilmovie.com. It's out now on Amazon Prime and Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And like I said, personally, I can't recommend it enough. I was blown away with, because I wasn't. It's not to your. It's again, this is not speaking to your filmmaking or your experience. But I went into it not expecting much, and I came out of it like, I am so happy that I watched that, because it was really fun. It was upbeat, but it also had those nods for the UFO people like me and the people who take it seriously. So I think you guys did a wonderful job of blending those two worlds, the comedic and the actual UFO history. And I absolutely I give it. So what I do is I give it a score. I literally have a sheet that I do, and you guys, I think, hit like 7.8 out of 10. So
Nice.
which is a really high score for me. Really, really high. Avengers Endgame, I think only had like a 9.1. So don't worry. 7.8 is a great score.
We'll take it.
You guys, you guys did great. And I am personally going to recommend this to, like I said, everybody, and really, really would love to help get this seen by more people. It's out right now. Like I said, anyone who has an iPhone, you get like a year of Apple TV for free. It's on. Oh, it's not on there. You have to purchase it right now, right?
You can rent it or buy it through Apple or Prime. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So right now it's rentable. And then it will probably end up on a streaming service. But so head over there, rent it, support them, and support everything they're doing, guys, because it is absolutely tremendous. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thanks, Tyler. This was awesome, man. Thanks
and like I said, reach out to me. Stick around after the credits roll, and we'll talk for a second. But I would love to, have you back on for future projects, especially if they're genres, related.
Would love to. Thanks.
You'll be hearing from us. Yeah.
All right.